Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something pretty intense. What happens when two of the most devastating injuries a person can get, one to the brain and one to the spine, happen at the exact same time?
So let's start with the central question that a huge new medical study set out to answer. What does this double whammy of an injury actually mean for a patient, for their recovery, and for the healthcare system trying to help them?
Okay, first things first, let's get the language right. Researchers call this a dual diagnosis, or just DD for short. It means a patient has both a traumatic brain injury, a TBI, and a traumatic spinal cord injury, a TSCI, from the very same incident.
Now, this is the key point. We're not just talking about 1 + 1 = 2 here. The research makes it clear that this combination creates a totally unique medical condition. It's got its own set of challenges and a recovery path that, honestly, we haven't really understood until now.
So, to really get to the bottom of this, a massive study combed through more than 2 decades of data. They compared 4 distinct groups of patients to track their entire journey, right from the moment of injury through that critical first year of recovery.
The sheer scale here is what makes this so important. I mean, look at this. They looked at data from over 200,000 patients. That gives them some serious statistical power to really see how the journey for a dual diagnosis patient stacks up against someone with just a mild, moderate, or even severe TBI.
And right away, we hit a really surprising finding. You'd probably guess that a double injury like this would mean a severe brain injury, right? But the data says, nope, not at all. The vast majority of these DD patients, we're talking over 91%, actually have a mild or moderate TBI to go with their spinal cord injury. That's a huge insight.
Okay, so let's follow that patient journey. We'll start where it all begins, those first incredibly critical days in the hospital, right after the accident.
And we see a difference immediately. A patient with a mild TBI is in the hospital for about 3 days. For a moderate TBI, it's 4 days. But for a dual diagnosis patient, boom, that jumps to 6 days. It's a clear sign right from the get-go that things are way more complex.
And, a longer, more complicated stay, that comes with a much, much higher price tag. The median cost for just that initial hospitalization for a DD patient is nearly $45,000. That's more than double the cost for a moderate TBI. It just shows you the huge amount of resources needed from day one.
The challenges don't stop at the hospital door either. Only about half of dual diagnosis patients are actually able to go straight home. And get this, they're twice as likely to need to go to an intensive, inpatient rehab facility compared to someone with a moderate TBI. That just tells you the road ahead is going to be a lot tougher.
But the story is so much bigger than just that initial hospital stay. So now let's zoom out and look at the data for the entire first year after they're discharged and see how that long-term recovery really plays out.
Now here is one of the study's most surprising finds, for sure. If you look at who needs the most physical therapy, it's the dual diagnosis group. At 34%, they use PT more than any other group. Yeah, even more than patients with a severe TBI. That just shows you the unique physical toll of this combined injury.
And it's not just that they need more care, it's that they need a completely different kind of care. The long-term problems they face are distinct. DD patients have more trouble with things like neuromusculoskeletal and digestive issues, while mild TBI patients might face more heart or metabolic problems. This really proves that dual diagnosis is not just a worse TBI, it's a whole different beast.
So when you look at that whole first year, the picture becomes crystal clear. Patients with a dual diagnosis are more likely to end up back in the hospital, and they use way more outpatient services than the other groups. It's a year that is just defined by intensive, nonstop medical care.
So let's put all these pieces together. We've seen the longer hospital stays, the intense rehab, the ongoing complications. So what does this all add up to, in dollars and cents over one full year?
Let's build a little cost ladder here so you can see the comparison really clearly. Okay, at the bottom, we've got the total one-year cost for a patient with a mild TBI, just over $42,000.
All right, next step up, a moderate TBI. The cost climbs a bit, as you'd probably expect, to about $47,000 for the year.
But here is the huge jump. For a patient with dual diagnosis, the total one-year cost just skyrockets to over $76,000. It's in a completely different financial league.
And finally, just for perspective, a severe TBI tops the chart at over $100,000. So you can really see how the cost of dual diagnosis lands squarely in that big gap between a moderate and a severe TBI. It proves it's a major, high-cost condition all on its own.
So, what's the final takeaway? The researchers' conclusion is basically a call to action. They're saying, look, This study proves we need specialized resources and treatments that are specifically tailored for this unique group of patients.
And that leaves us with this final, really important question. Now that we have the hard evidence showing that dual diagnosis is a distinct, complex, and incredibly expensive condition, how can our healthcare systems actually adapt and prepare to meet this specific challenge? That is the question this research really forces us to answer. Thanks for joining the Explain It.